So the new Nike Mercurial is here, and it's had a big fat upgrade. Now, I've already done my review on it where I call it one of the best boots on the market right now, and it is, because it's seriously good, guys. But in today's video, I'll dive a bit deeper into the tech for those of you who want to know just a little bit more about what Nike have done to the Superfly 9 and the Vapor 15 and why. This is a classic Unisport Tech Talk, so let's go. So, there are three big new things that we need to talk about today. The first is the brand new Vaporposit Plus upper. There's the air zoom bag in the outsole, and then of course the brand new stud configuration. But we're gonna start with the upper, because here Nike have continued their so-called componentized design, which is, let's be honest guys, it's fancy talk for having different elements doing different things in the upper. So just like basically any other synthetic boot out there at the moment. But hey, it sounds cool and all. But if we start with the inside of the boot, Nike wanted for the upper to have as little structure as possible while still maintaining that very secure lockdown doing the most aggressive of movements out there. So basically they want a soft upper that still keeps your foot in place. See, football is actually one of those sports that require the most lockdown out of all. So the trick for the manufacturers is to make sure that you lock down the forefoot, you lock down the midfoot, and you lock down the heel, but you still maintain a good amount of flexibility throughout the upper to make sure that you feel agile when you play. But after a lot, and I'm talking a lot, of really high scientific research, Nike found that the solution to that challenge was the Roman sandal construction, where they basically went in and looked at, okay, how much lockdown do you get if you only have a strap in the forefoot, or only one in the midfoot, or one in the heel? And they found that the optimal level of lockdown, while still having a good amount of softness and flexibility, was to have all three straps. So they used a lot of their data and their research and looked at the pattern of where you need to fixate the foot, but also where you need to have cutouts to give that flexibility. And then they built their so-called speed cage from a very thin yet super strong synthetic material. And having tried it, I mean, I can say that it works. It feels like it's better locked in than the previous version, so I guess job well done. Then on top of the speed cage, you have a thin lofted mesh going from the midfoot and all the way down, ensuring that you still get that very barefoot-like and sharp feel that you expect in a speed boot and in a Mercurial, but it also aims to take away that worst sting or the slappiness, that edge off the ball when you really put your foot through it. Then on top of that lofted mesh, you have what I guess most people will see as the actual upper. It's the outer layer made of an engineered textile in this V-shaped or chevron-shaped pattern that's then covered with a thin silicone film. And that means that you can really feel the texture of the textile itself, meaning that you get a little bit more grip and the feeling of tactility and control on the ball. Then the final piece of the upper is the Flyknit collar. Especially on the Superfly 9 you have the sock, where the opening is a little bit smaller and also the material feels ever so slightly more premium and lush, and it's just a little bit nicer than on the previous generation to make sure that the boot flows a little bit better into the foot. You know what also flows really well into the foot? Is if you subscribe to the channel. Okay, that transition made no sense, but subscribing to the channel makes a lot of sense and is totally worth it. So go and do it. But if you haven't guessed it already, the biggest innovation on the new Mercurial is the air zoom unit sitting inside the outsole, which we've kind of already seen teased on the Zoom Ultras. But Nike haven't just taken it and copied it one-to-one from that boot. Instead, this is a 4.8mm instead of 4mm pocket of compressed air, 20 psi to be exact, which is 1.3 bars. And for reference, there's around 0.8 to 1.1 bar in a normal football. So it's a lot of like air just compressed in there. Now there are also these little stretched tensile fibers to make sure that you get a bouncy feeling, but also a little bit of a snappy response when your foot pushes down and you start to accelerate on top of the AirPod. So the air zoom unit takes up 3/4 of the sole and sits in this little cavity inside the outsole itself to get you as close to the ground as possible. And it also has little flex screws to make sure that it moves well and naturally with the foot. You get the point. Now Nike have spent 2.5 years making this, 3 prototypes and 5 iterations to get where we are today. But like I said in my review, I don't really get the feeling, at least not to me, that it makes me faster. It's not, I don't feel like I'm being like pushed or ricocheted off the ground when I accelerate, like I think the point is. However, with that said, it's a really nice, very comfortable, extremely unique feeling that kind of feels like you're more in tune with the boot, and I really like that. So maybe it doesn't do what it says in the box, but it works. But I also promised you that we had to talk about the new stud shape and configuration, where Nike have introduced their new 4 tri-star shaped studs, which have basically flatter surfaces in 3 directions now, meaning that you can push off and accelerate, transfer a lot of power to the ground in more directions than just forwards now. So that's nice. Of course, they still have forward motion in mind with their toe-off flat studs under the forefoot. And finally, they've played more with the idea that football isn't only about acceleration and top speed. Because you might be the fastest guy on the planet. It could be Mbappe. But if you're not able to brake or decelerate well enough, you won't be able to beat anyone. Because the idea is that you can run fast, brake fast, and the faster you brake, the faster you can accelerate away again. So that's what they've done with the back studs here, angling the 2 studs under the heel a little bit more backwards, and then introducing this, I guess, torsion bar, or we can call it a wall, as the first point of contact when the boot hits the ground to just like put an anchor in the ground, or imagine like a speed parachute for a drag race car. It's basically there to slow you down so you can speed off again in a new direction. So that, my friends, is what's going on with the Nike Mercurial Superfly 9 Elite. And of course, there's a Vapor 15 as well, which is, well, it's the same boot, just doesn't have the sock color. But if you want to know how the Superfly 9 Elite here performs, you can check out my full review right down there. Now, if you already know that you want them, and I don't blame you because they're great boots, the link to unisportstore.com is right over there. And who knows, if you just want to keep watching, learn some new wicked skills, we have a great playlist right down there that you should totally also check out. So I'll leave you with all your different options, and with those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.